tell me, obviously I didn't get to make it to the event. How was the public speaking affair? I mean, how was it at Cannabis Lab?
Well, I'd done the event before. This was my first time keynoting. But before, it was pre-COVID the first time, and so everyone coming back out and through a tropical storm. It was still a pretty good showing. But it was great. We were there to do business, and we got a chance to connect with a lot of the operators in Florida. Highsman, my brand, we're currently in California and Oregon, and we're definitely looking to do big things in the state of Florida. So we got to make some contacts and make some headway and take a big step closer to launching our brand in Florida.
Could you ever imagine, I mean, really during your playing days, that this would have been the next step, the next world after football?
No, not at all. Part of me thought, I'd get as far away from this as possible, just because, the sordid relationship and the stigma attached to cannabis. But I did the opposite. I was reached an old teammate of mine, Kyle Turley, reached out to me back in 2014. And he'd been doing a lot of advocacy work in the cannabis space. And he said, "Hey, there's a conference in Phoenix. Why don't you come out and tell your story?" My first response is, they have conferences and they allow them in convention centers. I was like, wow, this is really growing. But I said, I'm going to pass. I said, I'm not comfortable telling my story. So I said, sorry. And then I hung up the phone and I thought about it for a little bit. And I said, everyone knows I smoke anyway. So I called them back up and I said, I'll do it. And it was a healing experience. It was the first time that I sat in public and I told my story. And I was just real and I was honest. And it had been something I had to lie about, so to be able to be honest and tell my story. And then the big thing was, after I told my story, at least 20 people came up to me and told me I was their hero. And I was like, for what I did back then, I'd never experienced that. And I realized, wow, people really appreciate and share in my journey. And so after that, I was hooked. And I said, I want to do as much as I can to help more people, because I saw that it really made a difference, giving people permission to be themselves.
Well, and especially, I mean, during your heyday, during all that time playing, to where we are now, I mean, all these years, a lot has changed. I mean, the way the world is, we're more accepting to a lot of things that back then we just weren't.
So, yeah. I guess that happens. I think that's just part of getting older.
Well, it says so. I mean, it makes it that much more appealing how you were able to stick to your guns. I mean, even with the world saying this and saying that, I mean, you were always true to yourself. And now it's starting to show.
Yeah. I guess, when I was a kid, my mom always made me be true to myself. And so I'm glad she instilled those qualities in me. It's been tough, but like you said, in the end, it definitely has been worth it. I always wanted to live a life where people would have stories to tell, and I think the football stories, they get boring after a while, because people are always creating new ones. But I think what athletes can do with their platform, I think, that those kind of legacies last much longer. And I hope that people will always appreciate that I was a good football player, but more so appreciate that I stuck to my guns, and hopefully find inspiration in their lives to stick to their guns when other people are doubting them.
Was there anything that I guess you could kind of take away from this experience where, let's say the time has come, you're about to go 6 feet under. Hopefully that's not anytime soon, but right. I mean, obviously you've lived a life athletically, but what you're doing now in the cannabis community and really kind of shaping lives in a lot of way, is that more so what you want to be remembered for? Because you got a lot of accolades, definitely Heisman Trophy and everything else you've done professionally.
So, I think about death all the time, not in a morbid way, but I think it's healthy to remind us that it could happen any day, and to are we living our life to the fullest? And every time I imagine my death, I don't ever think about the Heisman Trophy or the yards. Those things don't ever seem that important, but the relationships and the people that I've touched and the things that I've left behind, the ideas that are going to continue to grow and feed, further and further generations. That's what feels significant, because I've lived a crazy, interesting life, and I've been willing to take risks and do things that other people haven't. So I have a experiences that not a lot of people have. And I think the most valuable thing we have in life are our experiences, because if we can share those with other people, it helps them have an easier life. I coached running backs at the University of the Incarnate Word, a small school in San Antonio, for a season. And I loved it so much because I was able to take all of my years of football and put them in a like a bite-sized package and share it with these young men, and to see them be able to assimilate them and manifest their own form of greatness. Oh, there's nothing like that. Nothing like it.
So definitely the giving back approach is much more than any singular accolades for you, for sure.
Well, I mean, I didn't do that on purpose. I just had so many accolades, just having more just wasn't fulfilling anymore. But sharing the knowledge and the experiences that I acquired in accomplishing those accolades, right? That's something that other people can utilize to accomplish accolades in their own life.
What do you think it's about, like the cannabis community, that like people on the outside haven't really been able to digest really just yet?
Well, I think part of it is that the cannabis industry still is a majority of outsiders, because if you look at the history of this industry, the history of cannabis, in order to use cannabis, you had to have some tolerance for being the outsider, for being the one, what's that smell, to be the one that gets the reputation. And so I think part of it is like the people in the cannabis industry of like coming out of the closet and just being more comfortable and accepting that there's something that we all have to offer the world, and so I think it's more the cannabis industry being comfortable, being normalized, and then that'll help other people that are not in the industry that don't like or don't understand cannabis. That'll help them become more comfortable.
Well, and it's also in things like the annual conference, it's definitely an educational format. So those questions that maybe, again, those outsiders don't really know, it's for them to be able to go right up there.
There's no outsiders. There's no outsiders coming to those conferences, because it's so intimidating, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple outsiders, people that are becoming curious. For more, honestly, it's more the other people staying at the hotel that walk by and they're like, there's a cannabis conference here, like, right, that they might just walk by a couple of times, but it gets into their mind that, if there's a cannabis conference, maybe it's not so bad. And I think, again, normalizing, and I think soon we're going to see commercials. If you've ever been in California, there's billboards. I mean, that's a little excessive, but I think just as it is more incorporated into our normal everyday lives. And I think part of it is people who consume cannabis, who are famous, who have some kind of platform. I think a big part is them telling their story. So people see, wow, these people that I look up to, they actually consume cannabis and it helps them. Maybe it can help me.
Well, tell me about your work as the founder, president of Highsman, what you've been doing with it, and where, I guess, kind of the platform, the product is really going.
Yeah, so we only launched in November, and to build a business takes 10 years. So this is a baby, right? And so it's like I'm the nurse, in the nursery, and part of it is just nurturing the company. And because it's my company and I'm a founder, a big part is really building culture, of how do we do things at Highsman? What are we all about? And in a football season, right? You're going through the early part of the season and you hear the coaches, we're trying to find our identity, we're trying to find our identity. And I think we're still building that. And I think as you build a brand, you have an idea you put out there, but you have to be consistent and you have to show that you have to make it clear what your values are. And I think coming into this cannabis space, my vision is our tagline is spark greatness. So talking about how to use cannabis to achieve, right? To be a better person, to live a better life. And so really building that narrative, because it hasn't existed in, hundreds of years. So, we're a lifestyle brand. So really, really banging the drum and building that message. And then there's more of the business side. We're a cannabis brand in a very complicated regulatory environment. You know, each of the different states have different regulations, and you know we have to manage all that. And then so it's a learning experience. You know, I'm again part nurse, part coach. You know, part bad guy. So I'm enjoying the new challenge.
Got to play all those roles.
Exactly. Startup life, man. It's nice because it's the same kind of, it requires the same kind of intensity as playing in the NFL.
Now, I got to ask, because I've had friends that have been angling for me for years to do yoga and meditation, but I never seem to find the time. Why is it such a big part of your life?
Because I've made it a priority. You know, there was one time I was playing in my life, I was playing football, and I just thought to myself, you know, if I had just a little bit of time each day to just like tune into myself and take care of me, that would make a big difference. And when I finally started to do that, it did make a huge difference. And so if I'm not doing my yoga, my meditation, and taking care of myself, like my life starts to go down the chute, because there's so much external pressure about who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to act. If we don't create some sacred time to be in touch with who we are and what our heart really desires, we're not gonna be happy. And so for me, it's a self-care thing that I have to do. Otherwise, you know, like literally I'll probably kill myself. So I got to take care of myself. I have to remind myself what I'm doing here, because if I don't, I'm looking around and being like, this place is fucked up. So got to have that reminder.
So that gives you that center, I guess.
Exactly.
And being a diehard Dolphin fan, you know, I got to ask, what are some of your favorite memories as a Dolphin? I know there's got to be a lot of them, and it's even got to be rewarding knowing that your teammate, both of you guys, Zach Thomas and didn't you guys hit College Hall of Fame same year?
I think we were a year apart, but
relatively
close. Yeah, and we played against each other in college, which was cool. You know, my favorite memory is really my 2002. That entire year, it didn't end well. We lost in the fourth quarter to the Patriots and missed the playoffs. But I think that was the best Dolphins team in, you know, the past couple of decades. And you know, we had the NFL's leading pass rusher and Jason Taylor that year, the leading rusher. It's just moving from New Orleans, moving to Miami and being accepted, and you know, that's just a great bunch of guys on that team. It was just a magical year for me.
Could you see your teammate Zach? He keeps getting denied from the Hall of Fame. What's going on?
He'll get in. He definitely deserves it. You know, by far, you know, top 3 middle linebackers that I ever played against.
But was he still hitting you as hard in practice when he was a teammate as he did in college?
Actually, I had a really good game against him in college. I don't think he hit me at all. He touched me a couple of times, but I don't think he got me down in college. You know, he's just so smart, and he's such good at anticipation. You know, he doesn't have all the, you know, the physical gifts that you see in the modern day linebacker, but he did a lot more with a lot less physically.
Well, and I know a lot of people have told you, and I'm sure it's kind of a broken record, had things kind of not gone the way they did with the suspension and everything else. I mean, you really looked like you were on track to the Hall of Fame yourself, but does that ever weigh on you, or things kind of played out the way you are? I mean,
so like, let's say I am in the Hall of Fame. Like, so what? Like, what does that change? What does that change in my life? You know, doesn't make my kids love me anymore. Doesn't make my wife love me anymore. Like, maybe I'll get some more autograph signings, but you know, like, so, and I look at what I gained from the time that I wasn't playing football, and to me, that'll be with me, I think, even beyond this lifetime.
And kind of like you alluded to before, that I mean, there's a lot more in life that you want to be taken away from than football. Football is not what you necessarily want to be remembered for.
Well, football to me, and I look at football and I look at it in a positive light, because it taught me it was a training ground. It taught me how to be competitive. It taught me how to win. It taught me how to work as a team. It taught me how to be my best. It taught me how to overcome obstacles. It taught me how to face myself. It's a great training tool.
And just kind of wrapping it up. You're obviously, the way you speak, I know you're an avid reader. Is there a specific quote that's kind of like centers for you, like your life? I mean, for me, I've always loved Shawshank Redemption and
Hmm.
quote, "Get busy living, get busy dying." Is there
Yeah.
is there something for you though that's just like, that is my quote, I embody that?
Yes. I got two. I got two. One of them is life happens for you, not to you. You know, I love that one. And the other is Carl Jung. He says, "He who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakens."
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Well, hey, if there's anything else you'd like to mention, I know fans, South Florida, this is always going to be your home, whether you're in California or wherever else. We all love you down here. Definitely looking forward to hopefully seeing you at the next event, or maybe even one of those music festivals that got yoga attached to it. Be
That'd be
cool to see
great.
you leading the charge.
Yeah. I'll look into that. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, again, I really appreciate your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm sorry about my having to reschedule so many times.
No problem. Take it
Yeah.
easy. All
You
right.
too.
Bye-bye.